Hey everybody, we are back with another Penny Dreadful review. And the season looks like it's going to be super good. We're 2 episodes into season 2. And things are they're just ratcheting up now.
Gosh, I don't even know where to begin. Let's start with somebody who didn't really have a whole lot of story this episode, Ethan. He had a very little bit of story. He went off with, and I really apologize, I am so terrible with names, but the professor who helps them with the languages. Ethan goes with him to the British Museum archive to get some examples of, was it?
The language of the devil.
The language of the devil that some monk named Gregory, I think, scrawled down.
Because he was possessed by the devil, and so they had him locked away because they thought he was just crazy. And while he was locked away, whatever he could write on, whether it was a dish or a loose brick or whatever, he scratched everything the devil said to him in. And then in the British archives, where
has the collection
of all of this formerly possessed priest.
And while they're in the archives, Ethan's kind of looking around and he finds this shield-looking thing. And it has some Latin on there, and it has lupin on there, which, remember I said in the first video, I think lupin is Latin for wolf, and it is. The professor told him, that's wolf, and they're protecting, and then he tells a story about the wolves in New Mexico.
I think, the New Mexico
and
territory.
How they
Timberwolves.
Timberwolves.
Specifically.
How they didn't protect anything, they just ate.
They ate.
And it kind of makes you wonder, does he know he's a werewolf? Or does he maybe have some idea? Or is he piecing it all together like as he goes? I don't know. I'm really confused on his state of knowledge of his own being.
I think maybe he's starting to put it together. Like, he knows he feels a kinship with canines, because in the first season, when they were at the zoo.
When they're at the zoo, he kind of talked the wolves down, or the dogs down.
So he knows that he has this kinship with that particular animal, and maybe he's slowly starting to put things together. I'm not sure he knows. I've talked to some of my friends. They think like he totally knows. I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know that he knows. I think he suspects, but I don't think he knows.
Right.
And also, along with his story, there was a survivor of his last attack.
Yes.
But apparently most of his face was gone, so whether or not he'll ever speak again is unsure. But of course he's going to be able to speak again, because they're going to need that story. Why else would they bring it?
And they did mention his name, and he was the guy who was trying to bring Ethan back to the U.S.
Yes.
So who knows what's going to happen there? Maybe, he'll recover and blackmail Ethan or something, or continue his mission. He did look pretty tore up.
Yeah.
So I got to think...
But there's definitely a story there.
I think that's going to come later in the season, though, because... I mean, just realistically, they got to have him in the hospital long enough to recover. So I'm thinking it's at several episodes
I was actually
down the road.
thinking it might be for next season. That it was thrown in there now to kind of put it in the back of your head, and then it might be next season that they actually...
That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, because they already have a lot that's going to be going on this season. I think it was just kind of a little Easter egg that's going to come to play next season.
My favorite scene in this episode was when Vanessa met Caliban / John Clare.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it was so good. Like, this just makes you appreciate and love Vanessa even more, because she sits down and just talks to him like it's not that big of a deal.
And this is a guy whose entire life people have been afraid of him because of his face, because he's Frankenstein's first monster.
Yeah, so he is clean.
He's dirty looking. He's got
scars. He's very pale.
Super pale.
People judge people based on their appearance without delving deeper, and I love that she didn't. She just sat next to him and had a conversation. Just needed somebody to talk to, and
and I think she could tell that he needed somebody to talk to.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to see where that goes. I really want a friendship to build between them. I think that would be really interesting.
And they have this very philosophical conversation about religion and whether or not there is a heaven.
Yeah.
And his point of view is basically you know, why believe in a heaven when we have this amazing world where we live?
Yeah, which is...
To him,
I mean, he was dead, and then he wakes up, and he's kind of reborn. So yeah, a flower blooming to him is heaven. Like, all of being alive to him is greater than anything. So it's very understandable how he could not believe in heaven and just want to enjoy what he has.
And the fact that he's been dead, maybe he knows something that Vanessa doesn't know. And at the end of the conversation, she complimented his eyes. And you could just tell how much that meant to him, that somebody saw some kind of beauty in him.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking now, Dr. Frankenstein did make a bride for him, Billie Piper, Rose Tyler, Brona.
Rona, not Rose Tyler. Lily now.
Lily now. Dr. Frankenstein gave her a new name, Lily.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's necessarily going to shun Lily/Brona now, but I do think he's going to fall for Vanessa.
I don't think him and Lily are going to have a connection. I think it's just going to be forced and awkward between them, and I think he's going to... He just had a one-track mind where he was like, I need a companion, make me a companion. He didn't think it through to be like, you don't just meet somebody and automatically like them. Even regular people, sometimes you meet people and you just don't really click. You don't get along very well, let alone get along well enough to form a relationship.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it was a little short-sighted on his part to just assume that he could just ask for one companion and it would be perfect and everything would work out.
Now, the way I would write it that he has a conversation with Brona and it's just not on the level that it was with Vanessa. And he kind of breaks it off with her.
Yeah, that would be really good.
Because this character has had so much heartbreak.
Yeah.
I really don't want him to go through more. He's not a good person at all. But you still kind of empathize with him, which is one of the impressive things about the show. The characters, none of them are really very good people, but as a viewer, you still feel compassion for them.
Yeah.
So that's a real testament to the quality of the show.
So speaking of Lily, she kind of stares at Caliban, or John Clare now. They need to stop changing their names. It's hard enough for me to remember names as it is, and they keep changing them. But anyway, I digress. So John leaves because Dr. Frankenstein tells him, hey, I have to work on her.
I have to teach her how to talk, is kind of what he said. I have to teach her how to talk.
He's already done this with Proteus, so he's like, just leave and let me work, and then when you come back, she'll at least be a little bit more human than she is right now, because she was just sitting there staring.
Yeah.
So,
almost catatonic.
Yeah, almost. So he works with her, and she does get language back and gets it back pretty quickly. And somewhere along the line decides that she's going to chop off basically all her hair and dye it blonde.
Rose Tyler.
Yes, it was very, very Rose Tyler. I was like, oh, there's our Rose.
You expect David Tennant to walk through the door. Stroll out of the TARDIS.
And they kind of talk, and he tells, Dr. Frankenstein tells Lily that she is his cousin, and
she had an accident.
Yeah, she had an accident, and that John Clare is her betrothed. And she does it, she's like, did I love him? Did I actually love him? He's like, well, I don't know. And she's like, do I have to love him again? Kind of like, you could tell she's not really interested.
Yeah. So, I think, I'm hoping that Caliban, John Clare, doesn't get his heart broken again, although I think that's probably the direction the show's going to go.
It's just kind of what happens to his character.
Yeah. He's kind of made to suffer. And Sir Malcolm is developing a little bit of a relationship, unbeknownst to him, to the head witch, the leader slash
she almost seems like the mother, the mother of the coven.
Yeah.
Is kind of what she seems like.
So she's kind of bewitched him.
Kind of.
And they have a date. They go shooting. They go to the shooting range, which is an interesting first date. But he really does seem genuinely interested in her, whether or not he actually is, or whether that's a product of the spell.
Yeah. No, he's been seeing her before. Like, they run into each other quite often at this one shop. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I imagine that this was all part of her plan. She knew that Sir Malcolm had things to do with Vanessa, and so this was just kind of all part of the plan. But he's always seemed to genuinely like her, and that's, has she done spells on him before?
Right.
Is she making him like her, or does he genuinely like the person she's pretending to be? She does do a spell on him in the shop with the perfume, and I don't know what that was, but it makes me a little nervous.
So who knows what kind of a spell she cast there.
Yeah.
And speaking of spells, toward the end of the episode, we get one of the Night Sisters kills a couple on it's like a subway train.
Yeah, I guess,
and steals their baby.
Yes.
And the head witch, she dissects the baby and pulls out, I'm not sure what organ that was.
I thought it was the heart. Just because
some,
it was it was like a glob like this, and then it had stringy bits hanging off of it. So to me, that's the heart with the aorta and IVC, or the vena cavas hanging off of it. That's what I was thinking. Yes. But it didn't really give a good enough image of it to be quite sure. But I think it was the heart.
I'm thinking it was probably the heart. And she places this in what turns out to be a ventriloquist dummy.
Yes,
that has the likeness of Vanessa.
Yeah, it looks extremely like Vanessa.
And in this room, it has just ventriloquist dummies all over this room, so you know that she's done this before.
Yes. And I'm thinking that this is going to be akin to what we know as voodoo. Magic, which is the same as any other, like, religion and magic, both of them, take from other cultures. So, like, you know, a lot of Christianity came from the early pagans. Well, it's not to say that the voodoo that is practiced in the Caribbean is not from these dark magics from way before, or that they didn't develop at the same time. Magics come about because of a desire for something, and the desire to control somebody is a desire that somebody who's going to get pulled into black magics and stuff is going to have. So of course there's going to be spells and stuff for that. So that's what I'm thinking, that it's kind of reminiscent of a voodoo doll.
Now the dolls are super creepy.
Yes.
I wasn't really happy with that scene because while they were creepy, they seemed a little bit silly to me. But after I thought about it for a little bit, I was like, you know what? If they do this right, it could be really cool. Now, these are ventriloquist dummies, so maybe it'll have something to do with Vanessa's voice.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
She did mention that not even her prayers are safe. So what if they simply just take away her... She tries to pray, but she can't vocalize.
Yeah.
Or something just
Or she goes to pray and they incant a spell.
Right.
And she's got some crazy shit happening before her because she just did a spell without control of herself.
Right. So I really hope they keep it simple with the dummies. If they try to do too much, I'm afraid it's going to come off as campy. And this show, it's not going to work if they do. If they keep it simple, it's a ventriloquist dummy, something with a vocalization or whatever, some kind of spell, I would be totally happy with that. I just hope they don't go overboard with the dummies. And we did get to see Dorian Gray. We did not get to see him in the first episode, but he made an appearance in this episode. And wow.
Well, we already know from last season that
his sexuality
Dorian
is very fluid.
It has very fluid sexuality. I'm fairly certain that as long as you are attractive, he is attracted to you. He just seems to like pretty things, and it doesn't matter.
And he's sitting at an outdoor cafe, just minding his own business, having lunch, and this gorgeous woman walks up to him and starts talking to him. He's looking at a picture of Vanessa, and she's like, you know, I hope that's not your wife.
Yeah.
And they have this immediate rapport.
Yeah. And she's very outspoken and very flirty, like outwardly flirty, which is not something women of that time do.
Really?
Which is actually my first hint that there was something up with her.
At first, I thought she was one of the Night Sisters. That was
I actually thought that too. I thought she was one of the Night Sisters because she was off.
Yeah.
Just based on how the people of that time should be acting, especially a lady. And she was more off than even Vanessa, because Vanessa doesn't really act like a lady should in that time period.
Right.
But, you know, so she invites him back to her bedroom, and he declines.
He declines.
So she gives him a business card that has an address, which he then goes to later. And it looked like... a brothel when he walked in, and there was like the head mistress, very high end, very high end brothel, and like the head mistress takes him back to Angelica's room, and he walks in and she's like, I hope you know what you just bought.
And he's like, I do.
And he's just like, okay, yeah. And when she takes off her gown, she's actually she's actually born male. So
and she's hung like a bear. Like, seriously, it was big.
And he's just like, okay, yeah, that's not gonna stop me. All right. So I really like that. One, that they're so open with sexuality in there, because that's kind of a big issue, you know, in today's society.
It applies present day.
Yeah, exactly. So it's nice that they're kind of addressing it, and they have this character who simply doesn't, it's like he doesn't see gender.
I think we covered everything. If we missed anything, leave us, let us know down in the comments. What did you think of the episode? What did you think about the dummies in particular? Because I thought they looked just a little bit creepy, yes, but a little bit silly.
I liked the dummies.
I would also like to know what you thought about Vanessa and Caliban's conversation. It really seems like they built kind of a friendship right there, and just in that little 3-minute conversation they had. And I'm interested really to see how that develops. Okay, be sure to click the like button.
And the subscribe button if you haven't already. And leave us comments on this video, or Saturdays we do a topic of the week. We always need new topics, so if you have a topic for us, leave that down in the comments as well. And we will look through them all and choose the one that we think we can make the best video out of, and we will record that on Saturday. Now, it does not have to be related to Penny Dreadful. It does not have to be related to any of the videos that we do. It can be anything in the entire nerddom, anything you want.
Thank you very much for watching. We will see you next time.